The rain hadn't stopped in 2 days. Outside the tall glass windows of Brookridge Children's Therapy Center, the world looked gray, wet, and tired. Inside, in the corner of the playroom, a little girl sat quietly by the window, her knees tucked under her chin. Her pale pink coat looked too big for her tiny frame. She was 7 years old, but in that moment, she looked much smaller, fragile, like glass that had been handled too roughly. Her name was Arya. She had never spoken a single word in her life. Arya was the daughter of Nathan Cole, a powerful tech CEO known for building empires but not for raising children. His fortune couldn't fix what doctors called selective mutism with trauma-related complications. She was blind from birth and hadn't spoken since her mother died in a car crash 3 years ago, a crash she had survived, listening in silence as her mother took her last breath. No one had been able to reach her. Not therapists. Not teachers. Not even Nathan, who tried everything money could buy. But everything changed the day James Walker walked into that therapy center, holding the hand of his son, Ethan. James was a janitor at a nearby elementary school, a single father raising Ethan alone after losing his wife to cancer. His life was quiet, simple, stitched together with long hours, second-hand toys, and nightly bedtime stories by flashlight when the power bill went unpaid. He didn't have much, but he gave everything he had to his son. Ethan had a mild speech delay and came to the therapy center twice a week. James would bring him in early and wait, reading old magazines in the lobby, occasionally handing out small packs of cookies to restless children with a gentle smile. That's when he noticed Arya, always alone, always silent. She never played, never smiled. Just sat with her head tilted as if listening to a world she didn't trust. One rainy afternoon, while waiting for Ethan's session to end, James walked over and sat a few feet away from her. He didn't say anything. He just started talking, not to her, but near her. About the weather. About Ethan. About how his son was afraid of thunderstorms until he taught him a trick. You count the seconds after the lightning, and if you hear thunder, you say, boom. I'm braver than you. A few days later, he came again. This time, he brought cookies. He didn't offer her any. He just opened a pack and started eating. Then, with a casual glance in her direction, said, "You know, I once knew a little girl who could tell the cookie flavor just by the sound it made when it broke." Then, crack, he broke one gently. Arya tilted her head. That was the first time she moved. Over the next few weeks, James kept showing up. Sometimes with a harmonica, other times with a story. He never pressured her, never asked anything of her. He just showed up. Quietly. Kindly. One day, he brought a small bell. "My son thinks this is magic," he said, ringing it softly. "He says it makes wishes go faster." He placed it near her and walked away. Arya held it in her hand for the rest of the day. The therapists watched in stunned silence. Nathan Cole, who had just walked in from a board meeting, paused in the hallway, unnoticed. For the first time in years, he saw his daughter's fingers move with purpose. It wasn't therapy. It wasn't money. It was presence. 2 weeks later, it happened. James sat across the room, telling a silly story about Ethan trying to make pancakes using soda water. He laughed gently and said, "That boy's heart is bigger than his brain sometimes. But I tell him, son, the world needs soft hearts more than sharp minds." A pause. Then, so soft it could have been missed. "My daddy doesn't have a soft heart." James froze. So did the therapists. Arya's tiny lips were trembling. Her head still faced forward, eyes clouded in blindness, but her words were clear. Fragile. Real. James scooted closer, heart pounding. He didn't ask her to say more. He just whispered, "Maybe, but I think he wants one." Maybe he just forgot how to use it. Behind the glass window, Nathan Cole broke down in tears. From that day, everything changed. Arya didn't speak often, but when she did, it was mostly to James, or to Ethan, who started sitting beside her, sharing snacks and stories. She smiled. She laughed. The staff said it was a miracle. But James didn't see it that way. To me, he said, it wasn't a miracle. It was a child needing safety. And someone being still enough to offer it. One evening, as Nathan waited by the door to pick up Arya, he looked at James, this janitor in worn shoes, and asked, "Why did she speak to you?" James simply shrugged. "Because I wasn't trying to fix her. I was just listening." A year later, Arya stood on stage at a school talent show, still blind, still quiet, but holding a bell in her hand. Ethan stood beside her. Together, they played a simple song on handbells. When they finished, the audience stood in thunderous applause. She turned her head slightly, as if searching for someone. And she said, to a packed room full of light and love, "Thank you for hearing me." Sometimes, the most powerful words are unlocked not with pressure, but with patience. Not through force, but through kindness. In a world obsessed with fixing, sometimes what heals most is simply showing up with a soft heart. Because kindness doesn't need sight, it needs presence.